It's me, your boyfriend slash girlfriend slash they friends, favorite content creator. And you saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. I don't think at this point it's too much of a stretch to say that I am not afraid to talk about politics on a gaming channel because, and I will always state this, politics is tied to everything that we do. And things are going to get more and more and more politicized as these next 4 years go by because of who's currently in charge. And I know this is going to rub people the wrong way, but this has to do with video games explicitly. Project 2025 is sort of like the, let's just say, playbook that the administration is going to be adopting, right? So things like budget cuts, creating the Department of Governmental Efficiency, Doge, for Elon Musk to play around with. Like, all those stuff is going to be happening. In fact, he's already picking cabinet members and all this thing too. But I don't think a lot of people are understanding how this affects the video game industry. Because make no mistake, this shit will affect the video game industry. So without any more like preamble, I kind of want to just like start with it. And what I'm reading from, it's from gamedeveloper.com. It's pretty much like an insider look at like game development. So a pretty reliable website. And they have an opinion piece talking about how Project 2025 will impact gamers. Again, you guys can go to the link for yourself to really get your own sense of like the scope of things. I'm going to kind of interpret it in my own way, like I normally do. But here we go. So starting off with one reason why I think you guys should be really, really, really aware of Project 2025 as so far as gaming is because Project 2025 goes after the transgender ideology. And I already know, like I said, for some people, they're like, why do I care? Why do I care? What does it matter? It matters because this relates to character creation. Did you like the character creator in Baldur's Gate 3 in Cyberpunk, where you could be literally whatever you wanted? If they are adapting Project 2025, which they most likely will, say bye-bye to having, that level of customization because they want to get rid of transgender ideology, which isn't a thing, no matter the consequence. So you're playing as just one type of person in these video games where, again, you can create whoever you wanted. And it's just the option. Same thing with Baldur's Gate. It's the option. And of course, with Dragon Age Velgar, it's the option. That option is being taken away from players. And I think we can agree that we don't like it when our options are limited, especially in RPGs. We love the chance to be able to create our own characters and make our own little headcanon and stories and like their background and all that stuff. That's part of the role-playing experience. And now they're telling you as gamers, you're not going to be able to do that because that's part of their far-reaching anti-trans rhetoric and laws that they want to pass. So again, just off rip, you're going to be losing out on character creation and also potentially just other characters, like in Apex Legends, where you have like Bloodhound and Catalyst. You have trans characters in these kinds of games. If trans people aren't allowed to exist under this administration, then what does that mean for trans character people have grown to love? What about future characters people want to make and now they can't? Why? Because the government doesn't like it? If you guys saw my other video, which a lot of you guys did, thank you so much, about how the right dominates in gaming, especially in discourse, you'll see that the government has tried to overreach in game before in terms of like trying to censor it, which is why the ESRB was kind of made in the first place, to sort of like placate them to make sure they don't like fully start to like control it. But if you look at other countries where the government does have control of what games can and cannot be released there, it's insane. You have countries where like Mortal Kombat can't be released, just cannot be. Spider-Man games, Spider-Man 1 and 2, because it has a pride flag, can't be released, I believe, like Saudi Arabia. Just a whole game, the government says can't have it. That's government interference in art, in gaming. That fucking sucks. So that's my first point. And if that's not enough for you, maybe you are more so caring about like the actual life and condition of people making the games. If that's the case, people working on the games might face even more inequality because civil rights protections for American game developers in the workplace might suffer. Essentially, under Project 2025, they are going to be pulling back on protections. They are going to kind of cut the departments that would make sure that people aren't being either covertly or overtly discriminated in the workplace. So like by race, sex, religious background, all those things, right? And if that's the case and it's gone, then there can be just rampant discrimination happening. And how does that affect people? I mean, I don't think I have to explain that, but I will. Discrimination is bad. Do you guys remember what happened at Ubisoft or at Blizzard when people were being sexually harassed? When and Riot 2, and like I said before in Ubisoft, sexual harassment, a boys club, like all that stuff led to people feeling unsafe in the workplace. Unsafe people create bad product because they're focusing on their safety instead of focusing on their work. And I do not know if you guys have ever been in a work environment that's really hostile or just a really hostile environment. You aren't focusing on making the best product because you are concerned with your own safety, your own mental health, your physical space. Imagine, if you will, you are working at your job and at the office, everyone hates you, like actively hates you. And there is no protection for you, but it is your job. And you can't just quit because, especially in this economy, especially if you're in the game side of this economy, there aren't many studios hiring. And you're one of the lucky few who still have a job. But now, on top of the stress of being a developer, now you have to deal with the fact that like you're a woman and your boss is making passes at you. Or you are a minority of some kind and people are making comments about you, calling you slurs and all that stuff too. And they're just allowed to do that because there's no regulatory body anymore that's going to look into that. There's no protection. You can be openly discriminated against. And for all you guys who feel like, white guys are being discriminated against, now a company could in fact be like, we're not going to promote any white people. And there'd be no recourse because they would gut that program. They would not have the funds to investigate those claims. And so while people might think that this is only going to affect one group of people, me personally, I think if it affects one group, it's going to affect everyone. So I think it's bad either way, but it will not just affect one group of people. It's going to affect a whole slew of people. And with that comes instability. Instability in an already unstable market like game development. So that's my second point. That's why we should really care about that. On top of if going further with this, going further with this, right? People having access to healthcare. If you don't have access to certain healthcare, you might be in danger. And now you still have to work. Oh, they got rid of the Obamacare, which is the Affordable Health Care Act, right? If they get rid of that, you might be fucked. Are you really going to be able to work on a game? Are you really going to be working on a game when you have a disease or a sickness that your insurance is helping you manage and now it's gone? That's what I'm talking about. There's so many things that overlap here that people aren't really thinking about. And I want you guys to kind of just think about that. It's not good for gaming, especially because this might lead to more crunch. And if you have any interest in game development or just video games as a whole, there's no way you haven't heard of crunch. If you're watching this video, you have definitely heard of crunch. But for those of you who might be your first time seeing me, hi, thank you. Crunch is essentially forcing workers to work insane amount of hours over a short period of time or a relatively short period of time. So if you work 40 hours a week, imagine working double that. Not going home, spending nights in your office, shit like that. That is crunch. And now what's happening is they might be able to abuse crunch because one of the proposals in Project 2025 attacks overtime benefits from multiple angles. In the chapter of Department of Labor, Bay argues that overtime laws are too restrictive on companies who wish to offer other benefits like reimbursement for education, childcare, or free meals. As he states, quote, overtime requirements may discourage employers from offering certain fringe benefits such as reimbursement for education, childcare, or even free meals because the benefit value may be included in regular rate that must be paid at 150% rate over all overtime hours. So essentially, they want to be able to get rid of this overtime stuff, but still make you work harder, and they can repay you in other ways. So instead of paying you actual money that you would need, They're like, oh, hey, we'll offer you free meals. And it's like, okay, cool. But like, that might not be the best outcome if I'm literally working twice as much and getting paid the same rate. And again, if the fact that the people making these video games are basically living on the most unstable existence in history at this point for gaming right now, and that's still not moving you, let's move on to a little different subject. The cost of actual games and the consoles. You guys saw the PS5 Pro, right? How they were saying that shit's gonna cost like $700. A lot of money for a console that's just having better graphics for games. That's the now cost. But if they implement the tariffs, and for people who are unaware, tariffs are essentially a tax, a national tax that everyone pays. So real quick, business 101, right? You are a construction company. You need materials. You order lumber from overseas. They charge you $100. You sell it for $150, $200. You profit, right? But now if they're selling that to you for $300, you now have to sell it to these people for $350, $400, which means the person buying the lumber from that company is paying way more than they used to pay. If the tariff goes through in places, especially for China, we get a lot of our parts from China, like a lot, from cell phones to computers to consoles. So now the console price is going to jack up because it's going to cost these companies more money to produce them because they have to make a profit. Because now what's happening is they're not paying the tax, we are. So if they want to make a profit, this console that's going to cost $700 might cost $1,000. We as gamers don't even like paying $70 for video games. And now imagine both the game price definitely going up and the console price going up to offset their costs. Not good as a consumer, not good for gaming. If gaming becomes so exclusive that only like a handful of people can afford it, then that's not good for the industry, because now you have too much supply, not enough demand, because people can't afford it, which is not good. Like, that's why we've always sort of had a balance. Like, games have just now hit the $70 mark. Like 20 years ago, games were $50. So in the last 20 years, games have gone up like $20. Now you're looking at an increase almost immediately, starting with the tariffs. So if you want to buy and upgrade your PC, do that shit now. If you want to get a PS5 Pro, buy it now, because this might be the last time it's going to be $700. Like, I cannot begin to tell you guys like how bad this is for just not just everything, but for gaming alone, how bad this is. You are going to have people whose jobs are going to be on the line 24/7, who are going to be allowed to be exploited by both harassment and crunch without being compensated properly for that, right? And you're going to have the price of consoles go up for no reason other than a dumbass tax plan that from a person who doesn't understand tariffs. So there's a lot of people who are claiming victory right now, especially in the online grifter space. They're so happy, they're excited, but they do not understand that they're going to get fucked over like the majority of us, because this affects everyone. This is not good. You're going to be paying more money at the end of the day across the board. Tariffs are a national tax. Like, you're going to have to pay it, because if you're going to pay for anything that gets imported, like video games, you're going to get that cost. I would prefer games not be more expensive. I'd prefer consoles not be more expensive. I'd prefer that computer parts not be more expensive. But that's going to happen under this plan. So again, I know people are saying they're tired of politics, they're tired of that, but get untired, because this even affects your hobbies. Like, if you want to upgrade your shit, like I said, do it now. Like, this is so bad for video games, and it's bad for people. It's bad for minorities. It's bad all over the case. It's there's no one who benefits unless you're a rich person already. Like, if you're like one of those big YouTubers, you're going to be making like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Yeah, you're happy. But if you're like the rest of us, you're screwed. This affects all of us. This is why I keep telling you guys, it's important to pay attention to this stuff, because it's not isolated. When you're looking at these gaming companies and you're looking at their, you gotta look at their profits, going, this company's tanking, this is bad, this company's bad, they suck, this is good for gaming. It's like, no, that company tanking means they're most likely gonna shut down studios. Hello, Tango Gameworks. They got lucky as of right now that they got revived, but you had a studio that had a high pedigree. You had multiple high pedigree studios getting shut down, which means you have talent being washed out, which means you are less likely to have more and more and more successful games or interesting games because of people who could bring that new energy. For all we know, we could have gotten rid of like 10 Miyamotos, 100 Miyazakis because of that high turnover rate. And things are going to get worse because, like I said, now you're going to have it where these companies won't have to pay fair compensation. The cost of living has gone up. Their pay rate's not going up. So now you have that to deal with. And then the stress of making a video game, doing all that crunch, your health card being online, like all that stuff as a human being. At the end of the day, we're all humans. As a human being, adds up. So like, I'm sorry if I got a little preachy at the end, but I care about people. So it sucks when like you see an industry that has been so terrible to people, especially the gaming industry. It's been so terrible to the people working within that industry. And then you see people cheering for that. And it's like, how can you say you like video games and you love gaming when you are actively against the people who either make the games or cover the games that you even know about? It boggles the mind. It really does. And I didn't want to be a downer, but like, I'm also a realist. Things are going to get rough. Things are going to get rough. If you want to get new shit, buy it now. Buy it now. But when you look at Elon Musk and he's talking about, oh, he loves video games, he's a huge gamer because he plays Diablo, even though he should be running his company, understand that he's not affected by this shit at all. Elon Musk can buy whatever game he wants. You can't. He can buy whatever console he wants. You can't. He's not worried about healthcare because he can leave the country and go to somewhere that's free healthcare. You can't. You have responsibilities. You most likely work hourly. You have bills to pay. You don't have a whole government bailing you out. He does. He's not one of us. He's not a gamer in that sense. He's a rich guy who plays Diablo. That's it. He's not looking out for gamers. I mean, I guess I am, but he's definitely not. So just next time you guys talk about how cool he is and how great everything is, just understand that like nothing will fall onto him. It'll fall onto us.